In the meantime, the CIA gathered intelligence that led to the strike that killed Iran's supreme leader. That information was, of course, passed to Israel, whose forces then acted on it in what was, of course, a daring, broad daylight strike, taking advantage of a rare meeting of many of Iran's top leadership gathered in one place at one time. With me now, Professor Kobi Michael of Israel's Institute for National Security Studies. Professor, it is great to have you with us this morning. Thank you very much for your time. I wonder your thoughts on the historical nature of this cooperation between Israel and the U.S., how unprecedented it is, and clearly how effective it has been so far, at least.
Good morning from Israel. I hope that we will not be disrupted by a siren here. We have many of them in the last 48 hours. I think that it is much more than a precedent. Actually, this is what we are witnessing now is not less than a biblical event in my understanding. I think that everybody understands now that Israel is the strongest carrier that the United States has here in the Middle East, and generally speaking. And the idea that Israel and the U.S. are able to cooperate in such an intimacy in all levels, be it in the political level between the leaders and be it in the intelligence level or the operational military level, and to fight a wing-to-wing, shoulder-to-shoulder, and to do things in such an impressive manner, it's something that projects two things to the entire region, and I think that even beyond to the region. First of all, the strength of the bond between two countries and the strength of Israel and its strategic position here as a regional power. Actually, the leading and the real regional power here in the region. And secondly, the United States of America and its determination to take a step forward and to intervene in any place that diplomacy fails. Yeah. And I think that this is something that signals to other arenas and to other adversaries of the United States and the free world as well.
Professor, where do you see us going in the next few days? Because Iran is obviously fighting back right now, firing missiles, launching drones. Some of them have been effective. Some of them have hit their targets. Many, of course, haven't. But do you think this is literally, we are in the last throes of this regime? Are they running out of missiles and drones that they can launch in the direction of Israel and its Arab neighbors? Is this going to be over soon in terms, at least, of Iran striking back in this fashion?
I believe that we are talking about sooner than later. It is a matter of very few days, and the problem is not the missiles. They have some thousands of missiles. The problem is the launchers, and they have much fewer launchers than the missiles. And this is exactly the reason that the Israeli Air Force and the U.S. are hunting the launchers. And actually, whenever they launch a missile, they lose a launcher. And the mission is for Israel and the U.S. is to hunt the launchers and to destroy them, as many as possible. And once they will be in a shortage of launchers, they will not be capable to launch the missiles, although they might have some hundreds or even more than hundreds missiles with them. And generally speaking, I think that this is a regime in a collapse. It doesn't mean that it will disappear, because here the Iranian people has to provide each part and to accomplish the job. I think that even if this regime will not collapse, at the end of the day, it will be changed. It will be maybe a change inside the regime itself by more pragmatic leadership, but it will not remain the regime that we knew until 48 hours ago.
So however it changes, it will be, in your view, far less of a threat to Israel. Obviously, militarily speaking, it already is because of the damage done. But politically speaking, you are confident that the new Iran, whatever emerges from this, will be less of a threat, a direct threat to Israel.
Yes, but there is one crucial condition in order to verify the statement. And this is a very effective control mechanism that will be operated by the U.S. and Israel in order to assure that whenever the next regime will try to reconstitute itself militarily, be it with regard to the nuclear issue or with regard to the ballistic missiles or even with regard to the proxies here in the region, then it will be heated immediately, as well as Israel developed the doctrine in the West Bank, in Lebanon, and in the Gaza Strip. And I think that this should be the doctrine with regard to Iran as well. And this will be the way that we will be able to assure that they will not be able to reconstitute themselves militarily.
Yeah. OK. Professor Kobi Michael, an absolute pleasure to talk to you, sir. We hope that you get to enjoy what looks like a beautiful day in Israel and do not need to seek shelter at any point. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. We really appreciate it.